So let's talk about how pentatonics make better bass lines, how an understanding of the pentatonic scale can help you with fluency and just freedom whenever it comes to creating a bass line. It's a question that is so often asked. How do you create better bass lines? Why do my bass lines all feel like they're roots and fifths, roots and octaves? How do I get out of that box? How do I find freedom as a bass player without having to think about it? And I hope that is the biggest takeaway of today's video, is that I want you to do and not think. We're going to think about it for our practice routine. We're going to be conscious of a few things that may be new to you in terms of concepts, ideas, techniques. But the ultimate goal is to do all that thinking in the practice routine, even to the point where we get away from thinking about it in practice, so that for sure, 100% guaranteed, when we get on the stage, when we get in the studio, whenever we have to perform, we're not thinking about any of it. We're simply playing the bass. And at the end of the day, having a ton of fun in the process. We're going to be using one of the grooves from my book, Bass Player's Guide to Pentatonics. If you have the book and you're following along at home, it's on page 44. It's a groove in C minor. If you don't have this book, they're available for sale below. They're linked in the description of the video. I do signed physical copies like this one that's shipped from my studio here worldwide. You can get physical copies at Amazon. You can get digital copies right at the website. And they all come with videos and play-alongs like the one we're going to be using today for this example. It's based around the pentatonic scale. It's based around 3 chords. And as you can hear there, it has a little pentatonic lick at the end of the phrase. It goes outside of the pentatonic scale in terms of the root motion. When we go down to our A flat here, that is to highlight that over A flat, you can still play a C minor pentatonic. And it works beautifully. All those notes fit within that chord. That is almost besides the point for today's video, because we're using it as an example of, yes, C minor pentatonic, yes, multiple chords, not just a 1-chord vamp, and yes, there is the element of a fill at the end of the phrase. But the technique I want to push home today for your practice routine, for getting freer with your bass line creation, is to get away from the confines of this specific exercise. We're going to take the framework, we're going to take the chords and the form, the number of bars, but I want you to start realizing that once you have that basic exercise under your fingers, it's very repetitive. It's just really the root note that's moving down from C to B flat to A flat, and we have this constant kind of fill in between. Once you have that down, using those notes, get away from the confines of the exercise as fast as possible. And really, right at the beginning, just play anything. No rules, no regulations. You're going to hit some bum notes. You might actually not hit a note that's within the key or within the confines of those chords. That's perfect. I want you to get in the habit of trial and error and just playing, letting the fingers go where they go. That might sound like a very foreign concept right now and something like, what do you mean? Like, what do I actually play? I'm talking about playing literally anything. Just start playing. I'm going to play the groove here. Now, I know that it's 3 chords. I know that it's C, B flat, and A flat. So I am going to be able to stick within those confines of the framework, but I'm not going to play any of the other notes in the same sequence as the exercise. And I'm just going to let the fingers go. Let the fingers go where they go. As you can hear, it's very much based in the C minor pentatonic scale, except for that 1 chord we get to on the A flat. Everything is kind of around C minor pentatonic. So when I say pentatonics make better bass lines, that's what I mean. That's why this video is titled the way it is. Just by knowing these notes, this 5-note scale, you can access so many ideas. And when you start out just letting the fingers go where they go, as you heard, I was playing pretty simple. I was actually going into the box of 1/5 and octave. That was my foot in the door. That was like, okay, I know where the chords are. Let me outline them a little bit. And I'm going to use very fundamental elements of the chord. But rhythmically, I started to just let it go. Like I wasn't playing like doo-doo, bum, bum, bum. I wasn't locking in with the kick drum, the snare drum. I wasn't playing the figure with the keyboards at the end of the phrase. I was just letting it float and seeing what I come up with. There are a couple of things I did like. Can't remember them now, but I'll do it again. Let's see if we can come up with something that creates a bass line from simply letting the fingers go where they go. So already I've found something that's repetitive. It's something that's not necessarily it's not getting so far outside the box, but I let my fingers go up the minor pentatonic scale. I only needed the first 3 notes of the scale. Then walk down our bass line to B flat. Repeat those same 2 notes, A flat, repeat the F and the E flat, and let it go back to the top of the phrase. And on its own, like, let's get away from the backing track now. This is another great next step to take. Let's be self-sufficient. Let's imagine we're in a different situation, that the parameters have changed slightly, and we're really the catalyst for the bass line. We're the catalyst for the framework, and we can start creating our own bass lines and our own framework from this simple idea we got from working with the backing track. So with very little variation, I've taken our original idea of 1, 4, 3, and then our new root, F, E flat, A flat, F, E flat, and I've added just one more note. Just by repeating the root note there. So as you can see, we let the fingers go where they go a little bit. We don't get so hung up on, oh, I only know roots and fifths and sevenths and thirds. I only know chord tones. And we also don't get too hung up on, oh, where's the kick drum? I have to lock in with the kick drum. Absolutely, you do not have to lock in with the kick drum. Some of the greatest bass lines in history have been a question and answer with the kick drum. Yes, they have made musical sense, but you don't always have to gravitate to bum, 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 bum. You don't have to gravitate to the downbeat every single time with the kick drum and match that. You can be very musical as a bass player and melodic without overplaying, without getting in the way of the music, while still serving the music. You can do all of those things by having that confidence to sometimes float a little bit outside of the confines of the grid, of the framework. You're still, ironically, if you play with great time and great sound, you're still very much on the grid. You're just not as locked into the specific, generic, stereotypical components that we're sometimes told are the most important. Now, what's going to tell you when the right time to do that is and when it's inappropriate? That's just experience. That's just by doing it over and over and over again. You cannot buy time. You cannot buy experience. You just have to go out and do that. And yes, if you're in a professional situation, perhaps floating around all of the time and having it get to the point where people are looking around like, what's going on with this bass player, is maybe not the best place to do it. I always recommend working with a backing track like this, doing something in your practice routine where there's tons and tons of repetition, where you get amazing information and immediate feedback as to what sounds good and what feels good to you. That really helps you go on the bandstand, go out and perform and make much better choices as a bass player. way too much information for what I think is appropriate for this piece of music. But what I'm doing is getting an idea of where everything fits. I'm on the grid. I'm playing a lot of notes. I'm playing quite dense. So from that ton of information, I start to edit things out. I'm like, okay, I don't need the offbeat every single time. I don't need to play the octave all the time. Certain things I can extract and start to carve away. It's like you're making a sculpture. You start off with this big dense piece of marble, and you slowly chip away things to reveal the vision, the end result. And the end result for us right here is a really cool bass line, and a bass line that serves the music, that makes everyone around you sound better and feel better with you as the bass player in their band. So from that really busy upbeat I actually quite like some element of the 16th note of the busyness. The train is on the tracks, it's gathering speed, it's getting to its like cruising, like optimum tempo. And I'm finding a few little hooks. Like I don't have to lock in with every single element of the drums or of the rhythm section track, but I'm finding a few hooks like that delayed snare drum that I can make an accent on. And then I didn't play on the downbeat. That's another thing I love to do, like leave a gap on the downbeat. These are all things that I've obviously heard on record. I've listened to favorite bass players, heroes of mine do, especially Michelle Ndegeocello. I talk about her a lot on this channel, and just in general, she's a big hero of mine, a massive influence on my bass playing. And something I've noticed her and many of my heroes do is they'll play a fill, not that often. Very, very rarely do the bass players that I love play fills. But when they do, sometimes they leave a little pause, they leave a little gap on the downbeat. Let the rest of the band take the downbeat. Leave that little pause, come in on beat 2, come in on the end of beat 1. It's through that transcription, that listening, that immersion in the sound that I've picked up those little details. And then when I'm approaching a new piece of music, I have this toolbox of amazing sounds to experiment with. Is it applicable all of the time? Absolutely not. Is it really easy to have all of that information and then overplay? Definitely. I've been guilty of that in the past. Again, edit out everything you don't like the sound of. When you think, oh man, that's a little dense, just take another note out, take another note. It's way better to my ear to take some notes out than to add. You will be adding to the music so much more by editing yourself as a bass player. It's this work of repetition in our practice routine. It's the awareness of simple concepts like this, that you don't have to do all of these things that a music school will teach you that's on their curriculum. Oh yes, lock in with the kick drum and do this and do that. Actually, do your thing, do your own thing, float around. Don't ignore time and sound. Those are the two paramount elements of music, of the process of practicing and becoming a better musician. But with time and sound, use that floating grid a little more to find new ideas, to get out of the box that you have perhaps been feeling trapped in with roots and fifths and thirds, played in a very similar rhythmic fashion over and over and over again. The things contained in this video are keys to unlock that, to get out of that box, to be a better musician, to ultimately have more fun and more confidence when you step out in front of an audience and perform. That's it. I really appreciate you spending some of your insanely precious time with me, talking about music, learning about the bass. Everything I've talked about is linked below if you want to dig into any of this a little deeper, and I'll see you all soon.